Hello, this is Kate here from Womankind, wishing you a warm welcome to Cyclical Living. Oh, Cyclical Living. That's a podcast that we don't do. Cyclical Living is the one that you're here for. Cyclical Living Unwrapped, where we explore the gifts and challenges of cyclical life with experts in the field of menstruation, of perimenopause, and cyclical living. And today, I'm talking to Lizzy Kurtzer. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for coming. And I asked guests for a bio, and this is what Lizzy says about herself. And I love this actually because it's very alive. So Lizzy is your inner connection coach. She was born in Australia, lives in Edinburgh in Scotland now with her partner Bethany and their cat Percy the cat. And her work is all about connection and belonging. She splits her time between her private one-to-one practice and going into corporate businesses to drive menstrual cycle awareness in the workplace. Yes! Lucky businesses. God, are they lucky to have you? Oh, my Lord. Oh, and she's on a mission to help people with menstrual cycles to come home to their bodies and find such a deep sense of belonging within themselves that they can feel like they can take on the world. Because if we can't connect with ourselves, how can we fully connect with the world? Yeah, well, that's a pretty profound bio there. I think you got it. You got it all sorted.
No.
So let's get into the detail of how we connect with ourselves by talking about the inner seasons. So, Lizzy, what's your summer superpower?
It's really interesting. I'm like in my inner summer today, and I would say there was two things that really came up for me this question. One is just joy. I really have like nurtured this feeling of being able to access joy in my summer, and I'm like, is that my superpower? But equally, that word of nurture, I think that is also what I've really come to learn about my inner summer, is that is the season to really nurture for me anyway. And that's what really comes up, what is around for me and what really needs nurturing.
What does that look like though for you? What does that mean?
It's really interesting because it's like, it's the flip side of what trips me out in my inner summer. Because my inner summer was, when you come into the work, you think, well, that's the season that doesn't need any attention. I was a bit like, oh, it's fine. And as I deepened my work, like my work with the inner seasons and my menstrual cycle, I really learned a good 3.5 years into it that I was like super detached from my inner summer. And yeah, so it's been this like real process of learning to find myself in my inner summer. And
oh God, yeah, absolutely, because typically we're so outward focused. So where do you go? And exactly. I often talk about that in terms of life summer, in terms of our 30s, losing ourselves and then needing to go and find ourselves in our autumn. It's really interesting to hear you talk about this in the menstrual cycle.
That like the menstrual cycle is this like navigate this, moving towards ourselves and moving away from ourselves, moving towards ourselves, moving away from ourselves, and moving towards the world and away from the world, and we do that with ourselves every day. And I think, and that has been my own history work, how to move towards myself and move away from myself. And so the inner summer, I realized as I did deepen more and more into this work, it would really trip me up because it would almost be like you're so out in the world at that point. I would lose myself. And so my superpower, as I've really been working on it, has been learning that actually I can really nurture me and what's alive for me. And that's where that joy and that vibrancy really comes.
So the joy and the vibrancy leads the way. Oh. Okay, well, let's just leave it there because that's just so beautiful. And what about the stuff that trips you up, that leads you away? Or rather, my question is really, how do you notice what do you notice when you've gone too far from yourself in your inner summer?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's just that sometimes it's too far, sometimes it's kind of the end of the inner summer and I'm going into my inner autumn and it's all very clanky. But I think it's all of that. It's all connected, isn't it? It's like it's how I pace myself out of my inner winter into my inner spring. And I think whatever is around for me in my inner spring, it's that crossover into summer that needs tending to and allowing myself to be there with it. And all the embodiment piece. It's when that moment catches me where I all of a sudden realize, yeah, my feet aren't on the ground. My feet are definitely not on the ground, and I'm not connected. Is what kind of will trip me, and that can look, all sorts.
And when you cross that border and you find yourself in your inner autumn, what supports you there?
Space, lots of space, time, that slowing down, all of those, things you sort of hear, but they're just so important. They're just like non-negotiable. And really making sure I'm communicating that to myself and those around me. I just need more time. I just need more patience this week. I need more space, and really building it in. That's like paramount to my inner autumn.
Spaciousness. Yeah. And are you able to do that? I mean, you're self-employed, so I guess, what does your boss have to say about that?
Yeah.
Do you have a good boss?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because the boss is, well, I have different bosses. What I will really notice in my inner autumn is that voice that says, come on, hurry up, do more, like, that workhorse.
Yeah.
And I kind of come from the corporate world where it's just like you have to be on all the time. And again, that will be that other sort of trigger warning. And I have to allow, I think the space has to be there so that I can notice that bit saying, do more, go faster. And actually, when I hear that, I go, oh, I need to do less. I need to do less. I need to allow more space. I need to allow for more time. And so it's just, yeah.
It sounds like you've got a couple of different bosses going on in there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
The line manager and the big boss.
There's a whole lot of negotiation that has to happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of making a joke out of it, but I think this is such an important and valuable awareness to build. That what I heard you say was you have to go slowly in order to notice when you're pushing too hard, and then you can hear what the voices are saying.
Yeah.
And there are different messages coming through. One is to go faster, and then it sounds to me like a kinder voice that suggests that you could go slow down.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's like that practice, isn't it? Because there's the practicalities of, like, I do it for myself, so I can schedule my week slightly different. And then you just forget. And then you think, and then your inner spring or inner summer self thinks, but when they're doing their diarizing for you, thinks, oh, you absolutely can do all of that in that week. And then you're in that week thinking, no, this wasn't a great idea.
No. And what does rest look like for you?
Like, at its ultimate, rest is nothingness, and I've learned to really enjoy and embrace that nothingness that once upon a time terrified me. And so it is, it's unplugging from the world, it's unplugging from people, it's unplugging from stimulation and screen time and all of those things, and just allowing for emptiness. And again, those two words, nothingness and emptiness, once upon a time would have sounded horrendous and felt uncomfortable. And now when I'm there with it, it's just beautiful. In a like practical sense, like the ultimate to me is, outside or lying inside, face mask, listening to jazz. That is my ultimate. But there is just like, an emptiness that comes with rest for me.
an inner felt sense of emptiness,
Yeah.
emptiness.
Yeah. Yes. To just allow that. I think, because we're so busy feeling all the time, aren't we? And I spent a long time just feeling and not allowing for space, for quietness. And so maybe another, a word that other people might resonate with is quietness or stillness. And I don't know, for me, that word emptiness is just allowing it to be there and not having to fill it.
That's very skilled.
Yeah. Yes.
That's
It's
a
practice.
high, that's like PhD level for cycle awareness right there.
Yeah. But, and it takes practice. And I have cycles where I get it completely wrong, where I think I've created space and emptiness. And then I can just see how all the things that creep in because of that bit of you that does not want to let you rest, doesn't want that space and emptiness. And so all these things creep in. And then I realize, that didn't go according to plan. And then the beauty of the cycle is that I get my next cycle to try it out again.
And I know this is a short interview, and I know this is a massive, great question, but I'm really curious in your journey from busyness to emptiness, from fullness to emptiness. Can you, what can I ask that's really more precise? I mean, I'm curious in the steps that you took to arrive in this place where you have a full capacity to rest. For somebody who's struggling, who knows they need more to empty, to feel more empty, who knows they need to deepen their relationship with not knowing an emptiness, can you give suggestions from your experience about how they might take small steps towards that?
Yeah, I think it is one like going really tenderly with yourself to know, first it's noticing like how I need this, but it's really hard to lean into it. And so I think for the biggest thing I have cultivated, if that's the right word, is that compassion piece of noticing where it's difficult and it's hard. And then it's just experimenting and trying it out, giving yourself permission to get it wrong. And like sometimes I talk about like that snacking, like rest snacking, joy snacking. Can you just experiment a little bit, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and then I know it sounds, I don't like, does it sound corny or cheesy? And then just loving yourself in whatever happens, because I think that's so important, rather than jumping on and I'm doing it wrong. And yeah.
Thank you. I think a lot of people will really benefit from that little piece of advice, just to take it to small little experiments. And
Yeah.
love yourself anyway, however messy and catastrophic
it goes. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, totally.
And tell me about spring. So first of all, where in your cycle, where do you notice spring happening?
For me,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I have a 26-day cycle. And so spring feels quite short-lived for me.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I sort of notice it around day 5, but I sort of treat day 5 also still like my winter, because I notice it coming, but I also have to like hold on to that wintering, so that then I kind of have these maybe 3-ish days of spring. If I kind of day 5 think, oh, I'm in spring, it's so raw and tender. So I kind of might notice it, but I will chart and I will kind of ground in my principles of wintering to kind of be there in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what are the challenges in your spring then? So starting too soon, there's one.
Yeah, starting too soon. And then that, I think that classic, I have so much to do and not enough time, which comes, yeah.
That's how we started that when we met today. That's how I started.
Yeah.
Like, it's too much.
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
ritual
exactly.
place.
Yeah, so that is there. And then I think just maiden wounds will come up for me if I'm not, yeah, you know, if I've come out of my bleed too quickly, and I've kind of, I wanted to use the word careless, and I don't know if that's the right word, but you know, I've just sort of,
Just before you talk about that, could you say what maiden wound is? Because people may not understand what that is.
yeah, those maybe inner child or inner teenage wounds for me, that are associated with that time. And yeah, they will come up. And the big one for me is, you know, as a teenager, feeling like you're too much. You know, when you're, you know, that teen, you know, like, yeah, so those shadows of teenagers just being too much, and a young woman growing up wanting to come out into the world and
Yeah.
feeling like she needs to hide. Yeah, exactly. And so I can really notice those around in my inner spring.
And what are the joys in your spring? What is the delight there?
Yeah. I think that the like coming out, you know, it's interesting. Like there are my shadows, but when when I really care for myself, I think it's just that beauty of that newness. I likened it once to, you know, when you see a child following a butterfly and they're just following the butterfly innocently. If I really can allow it, it is just allowing myself to innocently follow what wants to emerge. And that is really beautiful when I can trust and surrender to that.
Oh, yes, so precious. And
Mm.
even I mean, I can imagine that, you know, there's the butterfly and the inspiration to move towards
Yeah.
whatever the butterfly thing is. Just catching that is just so precious.
Mm.
And you know,
Mm.
life, diaries, partners, you know, everything may get in the way, but just knowing that, just catching that moment is just so precious. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
particularly coming out of a quiet winter,
Mm.
a dark
Mm.
winter, actually, is what I was going to say. Ah, is there anything else you'd like to say about spring? About your experience of your springs? What supports them, maybe?
Pacing is just so important. You know, like really pacing myself. Which I know you can say for all parts of the cycle, can't you? But I think it just is because it is so short. Um, allowing the care to go into it. You know, it is tender and it's short, but it's still an experience. It's still mine, and so I never want it to get lost. And so kind of like honoring it and finding those ways to honor it, really important. Mm.
Thank you. So moving on to your professional self, where can people find you?
I hang
In the
out a little
kitchen.
bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, online, if social media
In
or
Edinburgh, yeah,
website,
yeah.
or where's the best place to come and get more Lizzy?
So a bit on link. What was I going to say? Instagram. I'm on Instagram at inner.connection.coach, and I do show up there, you know, with my cycle. You know, sometimes in full bloom, sometimes not. And then equally on LinkedIn is where I do a lot of my corporate stuff. So LinkedIn is also a great place to just connect and message me and say hello.
Fantastic. And your website?
Is innerconnectioncoach.co.uk.
Okay. And is there anything in particular that any work that you particularly like to be out and proud about and sing a song about and do a little jazz hands around?
I mean, my one-to-one work I just love, and that is just that beautiful place to help people really nurture that connection with themselves. And so if anyone is curious about that work, I'd love to hear from them. And then equally, I love, 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 love going into the corporate business. I love going into businesses and being like, you know, here is this precious, important work, and it does belong here. And it's just fabulous to be part of organizations that are saying like, yes, please come share. So if anyone listening is like, yeah, I want that in my organization, message me and reach out, and I'd love to speak.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your inner seasons with us, Lizzy.
Thank you.
It's been so interesting. And if listeners are curious about their inner seasons, and if you're navigating perimenopause, you might enjoy our self-directed online course, Perimenopause Unwrapped, which you can find at woman-kind.co.uk, and where you can shine a light on the unconscious processes that are colouring your perimenopause experience, and bring more awareness and choice, softness and compassion to your transition. We would be delighted to welcome you there, Leora and I. And if you have any questions, you can contact us through the site or in the details in the show notes. And Lizzy's details will be in the show notes too. Thank you.